Hi, Devlin here, and welcome to Misunderstood Movies. Before we begin, I remind people this is my opinion and belief. You can disagree with me, and please comment if you do or don't in the comment section below. But please be nice about it. We're all movie fans here, and that's what's truly important. So be respectful to all. Today I look at the case of I Know What You Did Last Summer, the 1997 slasher horror directed by Jim Gillespie. It stars Jennifer Love Hewitt, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Freddie Prinze Jr., Ryan Phillippe, and Bridget Wilson. The screenplay was written by Kevin Williamson, and it's based on a popular novel with the same name. What people expected was another clever horror in the vein of Scream. What they got was a slasher film, closer to the ones from the 80s, but a little more polished. There are a lot of people out there that when you say their name, they immediately are considered connected to horror. Vincent Price, John Carpenter, Stephen King, Elvira, Wes Craven, and the list goes on and on. But one name that doesn't get the recognition he deserves is Kevin Williamson. He is a screenwriter who helped bring back horror to life in the 90s. By the end of the 80s, horror movies became stale, repetitive, and dare I even say boring? Original ideas were being turned down for just adding Roman numerals after a title. Franchises were losing their spice. Then Williamson came along with a movie simply titled Scream. It looked just like a traditional slasher film, but it actually was self-aware and really well written. The movie, with the help of its director, Wes Craven, single-handedly resurrected the dying genre of horror films, and suddenly Williamson was in demand. He followed Scream with another hit, I Know What You Did Last Summer. This time not an original script, but he adapted it to give it the modern pop culture feel that would soon become a trend in the late 90s. The movie wasn't as self-aware as Scream and even felt more like an homage to the slasher films of the past, but it still felt fresh enough and got a new generation's butts back into theaters. Critics hated the movie, even though it made a lot of money. But for me, I think this is a misunderstood movie. I Know What You Did Last Summer takes on the urban legend of the Hook villain coming back to seek revenge on a group of teens who left him for dead, or at least claiming to be him. It also takes on a little prom night, Black Christmas, and slumber party massacre. Critics panned it for being too textbook, and although I agree the movie is nowhere near the brilliance of the first Scream, I think it salutes past horrors beautifully and creates tension and scares. The cast, filled with then up-and-coming young actors, all went on to have fairly established careers, especially the four leads, Love Hewitt, Gellar, Prinze Jr., and Phillippe. They work well together and establish their characters immediately. There is some humor, but it never takes away from the horror. They play up the mystery beautifully and almost have too many red herrings flying around. I think it's a fun movie to watch with a group and feel the tension together and laugh at the mistakes too. I think the Hook Killer is awesome looking, and the actual premise is genius. I think this movie doesn't get enough credit. I think it is overshadowed by the Scream franchise, and understandably so. In my eyes, this is a standalone movie because the sequels are just plain bad. I'm glad this movie does have a following, and I hope even more discover it. I think people believe horror now has to be all high concept and psychological, but some of the greatest horrors were actually just quite simple. This film may not rank up there with the very best, but it should at least be part of the conversation. Now let me know what you thought in the comments, and let's have a conversation about this movie. Are you one of those who thought this film was just a lukewarm teen slasher, or are you like me and consider I Know What You Did Last Summer a misunderstood movie?